Welcome again to the Solid Signal Podcast for the week of January 22nd, 2019. Welcome to the influenza ward, my friends. That's right, I'm still getting over what they call the CES flu. You go and see 100,000 people who you've never seen before. You travel in tin cans and in cars and boats and whatever, and you're bound to run into a couple of germs that you did not expect. Well, I'm in good spirits anyway, even though my voice is a little bit shot and my nose is a little bit stuffy. I hope you'll bear with me. I didn't want to go without a podcast this week, but I'll try to keep it relatively short. The subject of the week is rain fade, also known as snow fade this time of year. And I would be a fool to tell you that it doesn't exist. You can't not avoid the fact that when it gets particularly rainy, particularly snowy, that satellite service will fade out. This is especially true with DirecTV high-definition channels. Why? Because DirecTV's high-definition channels use a different set of frequencies than their standard definition channels and all of the channels that are used for Dish. This was done intentionally to give DirecTV room for, right now, they've got room for about 1,500 high-definition channels and maybe about 400 4K channels. It's a lot. And rain fade is a real thing, especially this time of year. The technical reason for it is simple. The very, very, very small waves that are used for what they call Ka-band satellite broadcasting just can't penetrate through mist as well as something like terrestrial TV and radio waves can. This is a law of physics. There isn't a whole lot you can do to change it. But there is some good news when you talk about rain and snow fade, and there's something that you can talk to your friends about when you have this kind of discussion about whether satellite or cable or streaming is better. DirecTV satellite is about 99.8% reliable. Now, if you take the number of hours in a year and divide it by 99.8%, that means that there's potentially still about 80 hours a year of satellite outages of one sort or another. But the difference is that when you're talking about satellite, these outages tend to be, first of all, very, very short, most lasting under an hour, and more importantly, don't require any sort of service call to resolve. I remember way back when, this was about 20 years ago, a little bit more before I got into satellite, and I don't know how it happened, but somebody somehow cut through a cable that was used to provide cable TV to my house. If I remember correctly, I was having a tree taken out or something like that. And this was the day before Thanksgiving. It took days before I got my TV service back. More recently, one of my neighbors went 3 weeks without television because a new fiber line had to be run to provide television to him. Think about when you have rain fade. It's annoying, but most of the time it's gone pretty quickly. You don't even have to call somebody. I myself had an incident of rain fade just the other day, and it was 15 minutes and it was done. That's the big difference when you're talking about rain fade versus the kind of outages that you see with satellite or internet. Especially when you're talking about getting TV over a wire or a piece of fiber, it's going to take a long time if you have that kind of outage for that to get fixed. And that's frustrating. Now, there are going to be some areas, I'll admit, if you happen to live in some of these areas where it's snowing 2-3 hours a day, I know that they call it the Sunshine State, but Florida is anything but 100% sunny. If you lived in one of those areas, yes, rain fade is going to be more prevalent. And the best way to get rid of rain fade is to make sure that the dish is perfectly aimed. Putting a bigger dish is not really indicated, even if such a dish were available. There is a bigger dish that's used in Alaska and Hawaii, but when you're talking about the regular continental United States, it's not necessary. You can get much better bang for your buck out of a properly aimed dish. Think about it this way. A dish that is about 1/32 of an inch off aim is looking at a part of the sky that is 30 miles away from where the satellite is. This is how important an excruciatingly proper aim is. If you're not familiar with the term dithering, it involves finding the absolute peak of the signal, moving back and forth until you're 100% sure that you got it. And once you have, locking everything down. If your dish hasn't been aimed in a couple of years, There's no way it hasn't shifted off by a 32nd of an inch. It's time for you to get that redone. If you're the kind of person who does it yourself, more power to you. We've got the satellite meters that you'll need. We've got the tools that you need. Just be careful, especially this time of year when it's snowy and icy. There is no reason to be going up on an icy roof. There's no television show that is worth it, folks. I promise you. But if you live somewhere where you're in a little bit more temperate zone and you can get up on the roof safely, go ahead and make that adjustment if you can. If you're the kind of person who prefers to have someone else do it, call the fine folks over at DirecTV. You can call Solid Signal at 877-312-4547, and they can arrange for service calls for you if you'd like to get a little bit more personalized service. Get somebody out there to aim the dish properly, and you will see a lot less effect from rain fade. I've seen this over and over again, folks. Anyway, that's about what I wanted to say for this week. I am hoping to come back to you next week with a beautiful, strong, resonant voice one more time. And until then, have a great week. I'll talk to you soon.